Welcome to the Week 4 Columbia Coaches Show presented by Amity Hall Uptown. I'm Lance Medow here on GoColumbiaLions.com as the Lions wrap up non-conference play, gear up for a home square-off with Lehigh, a top 10 ranked team in the country. As always, we're joined by head coach Jon Poppe. As we first will recap, John, last week against Princeton, a tough loss, 17-10 in New Jersey. Two takeaways in the first half that could have maybe changed the trajectory of the game. I want to start there. How much, with the offense not being able to capitalize off of that, did you think maybe impacted the wiggle room that you could have very well built over the Tigers?
Yeah, especially the second one, where we had positive starting field position. And that's a drive we have to score points on, in my opinion. And that's where we as coaches and players all got to be better in our execution, our play calling, and understanding how Princeton's going to attack us, and then obviously countering that with putting people in the right positions to make plays. But that was a drive we needed to score points, and you go up 17 or even 13-0 there, and it takes one time off the clock. So maybe that last minute doesn't happen where we were backed up, or you take some sales out of their game, right, and start getting them to press a little bit more and do things that were uncharacteristics. But we've just let them stay in the game in a way and be them, or allowed Princeton to be Princeton and play the game they wanted to play.
It's interesting, John. You've scored 43 points on the season. However, only 3 have come in the second half. What are you seeing in terms of why there may be a disparity between getting off to these strong starts versus not being able to balance that out in the final 2 quarters?
Yeah, excluding the first game, because we got out of that and we started throwing the ball a little bit more and we were playing one-handed, right? In Georgetown, right, the penalty of roughing the punter definitely took a possession away from us, and that could have created more opportunities, right? And knowing they might have started blitzing more, and maybe we were taking advantage of that in the pass game or run game, and we hit some things. So we'll never know there. But what it comes down to is, even after the first 2 drives at Princeton, we put up 10 points, is there's either a penalty, there's a missed assignment, there's a ball carrier that slips when he's making a cut, or maybe as coaches, we don't do a great job of a play call. And that's where we just had a combination of all these things, and we just haven't been able to click in the way that we hope to at this point. So that's really our goal this week, is to take advantage of what maybe Lehigh does on defense and now put our guys in the proper position and make those plays and be consistent in our execution and our discipline as a unit.
So how much, with that being said, is this an opportunity to sort of look in the mirror and say we're beating ourselves, as opposed to, John, maybe what the opposition is doing to you consistently week in and week out?
That's how it feels. I mean, it's nothing against our opponents and what they've done, but it's true in the sense of that we've left a lot of plays in that field because we haven't hit the receiver in stride on a throw, or we haven't, as a ball carrier, kept our feet through a hole where we just trip over our own feet, trying to slide through, or maybe, we break a run and we don't make a guy miss. That, in theory, we should make a guy's miss, because you see it all the time in football, and you get in the open space, and that's a difficult tackle for a defender to make, and we've got to come out on the positive end of those sides of things. So for us, it's really, again, it comes down to us taking care of our individual jobs as coaches, as players, and putting points on the board.
One of the things you've been emphasizing is complementary football. That goes back to what you did so effectively last season. Given the fact that right now you're hovering in the high teens per game from a scoring offense, how much do you think the onus is on the defense to do a lot of the heavy lifting, like we saw in the Georgetown victory, as well as for the majority against Princeton last week?
Yeah, and that's where, going back to our first kind of topic there, Schmakowski makes that pick. That's great team football by the defense, getting a takeaway in positive territory of our opponent, and that's where we need to capitalize. And so that's team football, not going 4 and out, right? We have to be able to move the football. And then you had a defensive stop, and they had a pooch punt versus Princeton. They get down to the 1. Offense gets 2 first downs, right? And now it changes the complexion of the field position when we punt. That's huge for the team and making the opponent drive a full field, because it's not easy to move the football when you're backed up. So we had occurrences of team football last week, and that's why I felt, even though it was a loss, it was our best team football to date. And that's what we need to build off of for this week.
Now, despite that, you still had an opportunity very late in last week's game, John, right on that final drive to tie it up, a Hail Mary that was deflected in the end zone. And clearly, because Chase got banged up, you turned to another quarterback in Xander Medow. What did you at least like in terms of the fight of your offense to keep pushing through, even though the numbers may have not shown up and that execution wasn't always there?
Yeah, I thought it was a great job by just the offensive line and Xander in terms of making appropriate plays, protecting him, knowing it's a passing situation, and those pass rushers can just tee off, right, in terms of their pass rush and work their games. I thought Xander did a great job, admirable job of stepping up in the pocket, running when necessary, and also taking the easy throw and guys getting out of bounds, understanding the situation to preserve clock and preserve time. So I thought from an operation standpoint, we did just enough to get to that Hail Mary side of things and gave us a chance to at least tie the game and maybe go for 2 or force overtime. And so I was proud of how the guys showed up to at least give us a chance to make something happen in the end.
I know we're going to look ahead to the matchup with Lehigh, but while we're on the topic of the quarterback, clearly Chase has taken his fair share of hits, and you're going to have to now look to other options on the depth chart this week. What is it that you see in Medow skill set, and specifically his frame and his size, that offers you the best opportunity for him to run this offense?
He's just come a long way since we've been here in terms of executing the offense, in terms of his mechanics, in terms of his confidence. And he's a coach's kid, right? So the intelligence is always there, the understanding of how football works and how all of it works in terms of a 22, meaning how my 11 pieces are going to fit here and how they're going to try to match that. He processes very well. And so during preseason, we really saw finally a comfortability in executing the offense. And that's why he's been our number 3 all year. That's why we're excited for him to have this chance to lead this team. He brings a very calming presence. He doesn't get too high or too low. He's kind of monotone in that way. And I'm just excited for him to see what he can do and what he's going to bring to our offense as a full-time starter this week.
The exact attitude you want to see out of a quarterback in terms of staying even-keeled throughout the game. Well, he's going to go up against a high-powered Lehigh team, and your defense certainly is going to have to slow down the run game, and that means the secondary, the group of sophomores, will have to chip in. We'll step aside. When we come back, our very own Victoria Newsom had a chance to catch up with Carter McCray, who showed some really nice flashes in his first year at Columbia, as we move along here on the Week 4 Coaches Show.
Amity Hall Uptown is the premier sports destination on the Upper West Side and the official home to Columbia University Athletics. Located just 951 steps from campus, Amity Hall is and will always be your home away from home.
Hey Lions fans, I'm Victoria Newsom and I'm here with cornerback Carter McCray. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, and you?
That's great to hear. I'm doing great. So can you walk me through just your week so far, prepping for the game against Lehigh on Saturday?
So week really started off on Sunday, getting up here early for treatment, and then meetings, already watching film on our opponent Lehigh, and then practice, a light practice Sunday followed by a stretch, and then also starting our off day with some treatment, and then also practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's pretty much it so far.
How have you been thriving in this routine, specifically in showing up on defense?
I feel like I've been striving very well. Obviously, there's plays that have been left on the table that obviously need to be corrected, but overall, I feel like it's been a great start to the season, and just ready to keep growing, keep climbing.
How do you feel with gelling together with your defense right now and the dynamic on the team?
I feel like everything is definitely starting to click. Our rhythm is starting to pick back up from where we left it off last season. Obviously, we lost a lot of seniors. We lost also other players to injuries, and we have a lot of freshmen that have to step up. So we're finding our rhythm really, and getting off to a good pace, good rhythm with the defense.
What motivates you most this season? Second year in, you're developing as a player and as a person. Can you share some tips or details into that?
One of the big motivators for me this season was definitely the new Ivy League rule, to where teams get to compete for a playoff spot. And I think that new rule changes everything. Obviously, we didn't have playoffs before, and getting to play in playoffs as an Ivy League school for the first year would be amazing. Obviously, it would do big things for the program, and I think winning the FCS championship as Ivy League school the first year would be awesome.
For people who don't know you as a player or as a person, what would you tell them about yourself?
I would tell them that I'm a hardworking individual. I'm also very kind, outgoing. I'm a person outside of football. I don't try and base my identity off of football, so I'm really just a cool, easygoing person, easy to talk to.
Thank you so much for your time, and make sure to catch the game.
Amity Hall Uptown is the premier sports destination on the Upper West Side and the official home to Columbia University Athletics. Located just 951 steps from campus, Amity Hall is and will always be your home away from home.
Welcome back to the Week 4 Columbia Coaches Show presented by Amity Hall Uptown. I'm Lance Medow here with Jon Poppe as we now look ahead, John, to your last non-conference game, and you welcome in a team that certainly you don't have to sell much to your team, I'm assuming. 6-0 on the season. They've won 11 straight going back to last year in the regular season, and they're a top 10 ranked opponent. What is it about the balance of the Mountain Hawks that jumps out to you?
Just how well they're working together as a team. Meaning offense and defense, and not just to include special teams, but just to talk about those two units. I mean, offensively, I don't think wow you with scheme and doing anything special. They just do it in what they do in a special way, right? And how cohesive it is, how on point it is, how consistent it is, repeated, just technique things showing up again and again. And obviously as a coach, you're like, this is what we're trying to be as well as we continue to build here. And then defensively, I think their reaction speeds to plays is very impressive from the second and third levels. They play a very physical brand of football on the defensive line, which makes sense given their offensive identity. And then, second level and third level run to the football extremely well. So this is going to, it's a huge test, obviously. It's been a huge test for, I think, everyone that's gone against Lehigh. And we're excited to welcome them and see what we can do and what we can hopefully build on from last week.
Statistically, they're pretty much number 1 or 2 in just about every category within the Patriot League. I want to focus on the run game here. They're averaging nearly 250 yards per game, and that was a point of emphasis coming out of the Lafayette game, coincidentally, another Patriot League team, and they have 2 running backs that they utilize. How do they capitalize on the skill set of their running backs, and how much is that a point of emphasis that it's not just on your defensive line this week, but guys on the back end are going to have to chip in?
Yeah, I think they do a great job mixing their personnel groupings, right, and attacking different surfaces, with their wide zone or even with some of their gap scheme stuff that they're doing with number 7 at quarterback or even number 5 in the game, the Crossley kid. So, really with 0 and 6, they rotate them pretty, well in terms of having a balance of carries, but 6 is their guy, the Yoder kid, and what he does a great job of, in my opinion, is he gets contact at 3 yards or 2 yards maybe, and he's pushing the pile 5 or 6, like we've talked about. And really, I think from a boundary standpoint, Carter McRae for us is our cover guy. He's going to have to be ready to tackle this week and get his face dirty a little bit. And I think that's exciting for us as coaches, is to continue to take steps and grow as a football team, knowing we've got a whole Ivy League schedule ahead of us, and this is a huge test for us to continue to show what we're going to be as we move forward this season. So this is a great challenge for the run game, our run defense coming after week 1 to now week 2 and 3, where I think we've played pretty consistent physical football, and now really what we have to do to kind of match this offense is be repeated ourselves in terms of fitting our gaps the right way with the right demeanor, with the right pad level. And that's the key to this game, in my opinion.
See, there was a reason why we highlighted Carter McRae for our player profile this week. We don't make this up randomly, people. That's what it's all about, the homework that we put in. But in all seriousness, Kevin Cahill, who's the head coach of Lehigh, a lot of history with the Ivy League, John. As you nod your head, he was at Yale, longtime assistant, their OC. So you've gone up against him. How much what Lehigh runs resembles what he established with the Bulldogs at all?
Some of it's there, I would say. Really, for me, this resembles almost going back to Colgate. Dan Hunt, who was a former Colgate head coach.
Sure.
This goes back to their style of football, where they're really, ground and pound, and they have an athletic quarterback who can throw it well enough to beat you and create the explosive plays in the pass game, and really just be great and disciplined in the run side of things. So I think this is Coach Cahill's mentality in terms of his overall approach as a program, but Dan Hunt has got his hands all over this offense from what I used to see from Colgate way back in the day. And some of the zone stuff might be some of Cahill's stuff from Yale, but it's a great offense with 2 minds together and that offensive staff in general. So
2 weeks ago when we were previewing the Georgetown game, we had mentioned that they're a very opportunistic unit, and they wound up getting obviously 2 interceptions. I looked at the Lehigh numbers. They're +7. They've got 11 takeaways, which is one of the top totals in the country. What is it about their scheme? One of their defensive backs has 4 of their 6 interceptions. So what do you do to maybe counter that, where you don't want to be timid, right, in terms of your offensive approach, but you also need to pick and choose where you take chances against this group?
Yeah. I think for us in their takeaways side of things, to limit that opportunity is making sure we're calling the right plays based on what we're seeing, right? And not putting our quarterback in a position to throw the ball into crowded areas, zone coverage areas. That's what they want to be. They're a zone team, fitting the safeties late to the run game. They're playing man in certain situations and areas of the field, but really they're a zone-based team with eyes on the quarterback, seeing where the ball goes, to get that idea and that sense to be able to add in, again, to stop the run, right? And so for us, the tip ball things at the defensive line, we've got to do a great job of offensive linemen keeping their defensive lines hands down, right? So they can't jump up and tip a ball so a guy on the back end or second level can jump in and intercept it. That's kind of the key to their success and some of their takeaways. They had a great takeaway versus Yale where it's an individual play, and that's where our receivers have to be great at going up vertical, going up strong to the football and not fading away and giving a defensive back an opportunity to make a great play like that.
Helping out the quarterback so you don't get some of those fortuitous bounces. Before I let you go, since this is the last non-conference game, and we've talked about when you entered Ivy League play, from here on out it is going to be Ivy League play. So, John, this is really your last chance to at least maybe fine-tune some things right before the focus is purely on your conference rivals. How much is that a big part of the dialogue this week? That this is a get-right type of week before all of a sudden the gauntlet of the rest of the Ivy League presents itself?
Yeah, I think it's all build, right? It's all build. And that's what we need to continue to show that we've done. From week one to this week at Lehigh, we need to show that we've continually to build forward and build upward in terms of a positive side of things to make sure we're putting our best foot forward come that Ivy League stretch when it happens. And so I'm really excited about this challenge. It's an amazing challenge for our team and our program to welcome Lehigh as a team that's having great success this season. And this will be a great, hopefully, challenge that gives us confidence moving into Ivy League play as well.
John, greatly appreciate the time as always,
Appreciate you.
and best of luck this week. I'm looking forward to being in the broadcast booth. I'm going to have two guys, Sean Fitzgerald and C.J. Brown this week, as you can see it on ESPN Plus with kickoff at 12 p.m. Eastern. This was the Week 4 Columbia Coaches Show, presented by Amity Hall, Uptown.